Commercial vessels can increasingly transit our waters, shortening the journeys between continents, connecting us to the world's largest markets. Canada's allies are relying on our resources, including critical minerals, to secure their supply chains. More menacingly, authoritarian regimes are increasingly assertive. The burdens within our traditional alliances are shifting, and middle powers such as Canada are seeking greater strategic autonomy through partnerships amongst the like-minded. We must meet both the realities of a changing climate and that new geopolitical landscape. The sovereignty of our country, bounded by 3 oceans and the world's longest coastline, depends on our maritime capabilities, and I want to salute the women and men of Canada's Navy for leading that. We need to give them the right equipment, the right tools, the right capacities to do their jobs. And first, we need to be aware of what's in, what's over, and what's under our vast territory. And that's why we're investing in a new fleet of P-8 Poseidon patrol aircraft. That's why we're investing in Arctic over-the-horizon radar. Secondly, we obviously need to be able to defend those waters, which is why we're building 15 River-class destroyers, and an entirely new fleet of polar icebreakers and Arctic patrol vessels. And it's why we're here today, to announce an ambitious investment in new best-in-class submarines. Les sous-marins peuvent patrouiller sans être détectés, empêcher les adversaires d'accéder à notre territoire, recueillir des renseignements et projeter notre puissance dans des zones où aucun autre appareil ne peut opérer aussi efficacement. Depuis des décennies, le service sous-marinier du Canada s'acquitte de ses responsabilités avec brio. Toutefois, nos sous-marins de la classe Victoria arrivent à la fin de leur durée de vie opérationnelle. Seul l'un de ces 4 sous-marins est encore en état de naviguer, une capacité insuffisante pour assurer une présence crédible sur plus de nos 3 côtes à la fois, c'est évident. Les marins qui servent à bord de ces appareils ont déployé des efforts extraordinaires pour maintenir cette capacité essentielle pour le Canada. Cependant, le dévouement à lui seul ne suffit pas à remplacer la modernisation. Today, as part of our commitments to defend Canada and to support our allies, I'm pleased to announce that Canada has selected TKMS as the preferred supplier for Canada's patrol submarine project. It's a huge step, but there's more to come. We will now enter into negotiations to procure up to 12 submarines. And that process is commercially sensitive. And as always, we will not negotiate in public so as to maintain the strongest possible position for Canada. What I can confirm today is that we have already provisioned for the costs of purchasing these submarines in our fiscal framework. It's already in the budget. And I can confirm that this procurement will be the largest in Canadian history, and that by design, and Doug Guzman just alluded to this very lightly, by design, this process will have far and away the greatest economic impact of any defense investment right across Canada. Now, we're preserving our options in the event that negotiations with TKMS are unsuccessful. We don't expect that, but if they are unsuccessful, Canada retains the right to designate Hanwha Ocean, currently the reserve supplier, as the preferred supplier and enter into negotiations with them. And I want to be clear that this was a difficult, close decision between 2 highly qualified suppliers. Both the TKMS and the Hanwha platforms met the capabilities, the very high capabilities of the Royal Canadian Navy, and both of them put forward strong proposals to maximize the benefits for Canadian workers and businesses. On behalf of the government, on behalf of the Canadian people, I would like to thank both bidders for the extraordinarily thoughtful, comprehensive, and cooperative proposals that they and their government submitted. As dynamic, reliable, like-minded democracies, Germany, Norway, and the Republic of Korea are each critical strategic partners to Canada in this new world. Now, in the end, this decision was about choosing the absolute best platform and partnership to meet Canada's combined strategic, security, and economic interests. These are amongst the most advanced submarines ever built. The fuel cell air-independent propulsion system allows for more than 40 days fully submerged in near total silence. Combined with purpose-built combat capabilities, lithium-ion batteries for speed and rapid recharge, and unparalleled endurance under the ice, the TKMS delivers exceptional strength, stealth, and staying power. The TKMS platform is optimized for Arctic waters, and it's fully NATO interoperable, allowing it to communicate seamlessly, to share intelligence, and to carry out joint missions. The submarine is proven and capable. It's widely used by our allies. In fact, TKMS provides submarines to over 1/3 of the NATO alliance and is the leading submarine provider to navies around the world. And the type we're moving to purchase, the type 212 CD. Is that 212 or 212? 212. Okay, let's roll tape, let's redo. Type 212 CD sub will operate seamlessly alongside our NATO partners, sharing training, maintenance, parts, technology, and even crews throughout their service lives. In addition, TKMS has offered to reallocate boats from the German and Norwegian orders, allowing for early delivery of the first 4 submarines by 2034. TKMS is the best choice for Canadian workers. It will directly create and sustain an ecosystem of well over 100,000 well-paying jobs across Canada. And in its initial phase, this project will put Canadians to work on the direct construction of these submarines. That means welders, pipe fitters, engineers designing the next generation systems, machinists building precision components, researchers advancing the technologies of tomorrow. As the project matures, we'll build the infrastructure to house this fleet, the shipyards, the jetties, the dry docks, and the support facilities that will employ ironworkers, electricians, pipe fitters, heavy equipment operators in communities right across Canada. And we'll build the capacity to maintain and sustain these submarines, creating long-term, stable careers for technicians, engineers, skilled tradespeople who will service this fleet for its long operational life. As a condition of the contract, fully 100% of the value of our investment must be matched with investment here in Canada. And well, as I said, we won't release the final contract price until the commercial negotiations are completed. We can confirm that this means Canada will receive tens of billions of dollars in investment from TKMS, investments that impact every region of the country, investments across key defense and industrial domains, including space, munitions, autonomous technologies, critical minerals, and R&D. So that means in Vancouver and Halifax, our best engineers will build a sustainment capability that will keep this fleet in the sea for decades. It means in Montreal, high-tech innovators who build simulators will train the sailors who serve aboard it. In Calgary, our clean energy companies will help power it. In Manitoba, our aerospace technicians will help build the torpedoes it carries. And students in our schools today studying engineering, the trades, advanced technology, will graduate into a job market that's richer in opportunity. So these subs will strengthen our defense industrial base. They'll deepen our partnerships with trusted allies, and they'll open new opportunities for Canadian businesses in European supply chains. En effet, c'est bien plus qu'un simple projet d'approvisionnement. C'est un partenariat à long terme. Un partenariat qui servera de base à une nouvelle collaboration industrielle entre le Canada et l'Europe. Un partenariat qui permettra d'intégrer l'expertise canadienne dans certaines des chaînes d'approvisionnement de la défense les plus avancées au monde. Et un partenariat dans le cadre duquel le Canada ne sera pas simplement un client, mais un acteur contribuant à la sécurité collective et à la résilience économique de l'Alliance transatlantique. Now, I want to say a word about process, because this procurement is also historic for the ambition, speed, and discipline with which it was delivered. In less than a year, we've received, reviewed, and selected bids for the most consequential defense procurement in Canadian history, fully 5 years ahead of the original schedule. This is a powerful demonstration of Canada's new Defence Investment Agency in action, equipping our armed forces with the capabilities they need, when they need them, while strengthening our industrial base for the decades ahead. And it's similar to our recently announced plan to partner with Saab and Bombardier to build the Global Eye surveillance aircraft here in Canada. We're working with trusted allies to strengthen our armed forces while growing Canadian companies and creating tens of thousands of quality jobs. You know, we campaigned on the promise that we would fix Canada's chronic defense procurement problems. And today's announcement is another important step in that direction. Now, consistent with that strategy, as I've said, the project builds Canadian industrial capacity. It's a partnership with Canadian companies and workers. It creates sovereign sustainment, meaning Canada will maintain and support these capabilities for generations, maximizing those long-term impacts. And in a dangerous world, economic security and national security go hand in hand. Tonight, the Minister of National Defence and I will fly to Ankara for the NATO summit. Canada will arrive in a position to help lead the alliance. Our fiscal framework has already budgeted to achieve 4% of GDP in total defense spending by the end of this decade, ahead of NATO's 2035 timetable. That includes, as I said, provisioning for the costs of these submarines. In the Arctic and on NATO's western flank, Canada is taking a leadership role. These new submarines, combined with the world's second largest fleet of icebreakers, combined with new aircraft, new radar, more missiles and drones, better cyber defenses, new ports and air bases, are allowing Canada to assert our full sovereignty in the Arctic. We're matching these investments with increased presence. Through Operation Nanook at home, Exercise Cold Response in the High North, and Operation Reassurance in Latvia. We're amongst the largest contributors to the coalition of the willing for Ukraine. And through the Defense, Security and Resilience Bank, Canada will help mobilize affordable capital so democratic nations can build their defense industries faster and in the most cost-effective ways. Ainsi, le Canada montre au monde entier qu'il a pris la mesure de la situation, qu'il se mobilise pour y faire face et qu'il est prêt à montrer la voie. Nous réalisons nos dépenses militaires de manière à rendre le Canada plus sûr, plus indépendant et plus prospère. L'annonce aujourd'hui illustre parfaitement cette approche. To finish, nearly 4 decades ago, the Berlin Wall crumbled, ushering in hopes for a new era. An era that would lift the specter of nuclear confrontation, an era that would advance democracy, push tyranny into retreat, and make the world safer. L'espoir suscité par la fin de la guerre froide n'était pas sans fondement. L'Union soviétique s'est dissoute 2 ans plus tard. Des millions de personnes ont retrouvé la liberté. La démocratie s'est entendue. Des familles séparées par des murs et des barbelés ont été réunies. Et pourtant, l'optimisme de ce moment reposait sur des hypothèses dangereuses. Que l'histoire avant avait tranché en faveur de la liberté. Que les conflits majeurs entre des États puissants étaient choses de passé. Que la prospérité, elle seule, pouvait garantir notre sécurité. Pour nombre de pays, y compris le nôtre, ces hypothèses ont donné lieu à un certain relâchement. It's no coincidence that 1989, the year that the Berlin Wall collapsed, was the last time our defense spending was above 2%. Well, history has returned. And while a more just, stable, and prosperous world for all may yet come, it won't come without vigilance, resolve, and partnership amongst like-minded allies. So last October, we promised that the new Defense Investment Agency would accelerate timelines, strengthen partnerships, deliver better outcomes for our armed forces and our economy. In January, in Davos, I stated that Canada must work with like-minded middle powers at speed and scale to create mutual reliance, to expand our strategic capabilities, and to build greater strategic autonomy. In February here, we launched our new defense industrial strategy, a bold plan to get our armed forces what they need when they need it, to scale Canadian defense companies, and put hundreds of billions of dollars to work in strategic sectors of our economy. Well, we're turning those commitments into action, because tyranny is no longer in retreat, because the threats we and our allies face are real and varied, because they must be met head-on by a Canada prepared to defend our interests, protect our citizens, build our economy, and secure our future, and because we are Canada strong. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We will now turn to questions. Nous allons maintenant prendre les questions des médias. Première question, first question.
Hi, Mr. Prime Minister. I'm Lindsay Jones from the Globe and Mail. In Korea, you boarded an actual completed version of the submarine Hanwha Ocean was offering to Canada. In Germany, they gave you a small model of what they were offering. What did TKMS Germany promise in terms of delivery schedule for all 12 submarines? And is there not a considerable risk of Canada having almost no submarine capability until the late 2030s and not having a full fleet of 12 or more for more than 25 years, given there is no German submarine built or tested? TKMS has limited shipyard capacity, and these development programs always go later over budget.
Thank you. First off, thank you for your question. I'd refer back to several things. First, just for clarity, we will enter into negotiations, the Defense Investment Agency will enter into negotiations for up to 12 submarines. That's the first aspect, just to be clear. Secondly, the German government, the Norwegian government have offered, and this works, to make available some of their slots in the production of these submarines so that we can receive submarines earlier. So we will receive submarines earlier, as I referenced in my remarks, and you'll see in the backgrounder. The expectation is we'd have 4 submarines by 2034. Recall that the original timeline for this procurement was 5 years from now. So we're making a decision today. We're talking about getting the submarines on that timeline. And I'd make one other point, which is that this is a platform, a consortium, that provides a third of the submarines to NATO. It's the largest provider of submarines effectively in the world, but certainly relevant, is a third of the submarines to NATO. So all of those aspects in terms of delivery capacity, the ability for that to happen in accordance with the specs of the Royal Navy, obviously taken directly into account, and it's very robust, and we're very pleased with that. And I'm going to say as well, I'm going to take the opportunity, as was the competing bid, if I can call the Hanwha Ocean bid the competing bid, it was also very strong, and we were blessed with 2 strong bids, and we've made a determination of the best for Canada in all respects.
Follow-up?
Okay, and to follow up, are you not worried about a totally European focus for our international efforts and setting up a similar reliance with Europe like we've had with the U.S.? Did an Asian firm ever really have a chance to win this? And is this a signal that Canada is walking away from its Indo-Pacific strategy?
Absolutely not. It's absolutely not a symbol of the last point. We're very committed to the Indo-Pacific strategy, consistent with my meeting with President Marcos yesterday, last week. I will be at ASEAN and APEC later this year. I spoke with President Lee of Korea over the course of the weekend. There are a series of other initiatives Canada and Korea are pursuing that build our economic resilience and our security footprint as one very important example. So, and I would remind as well that we are engaged intensively in trade negotiations with India, and Prime Minister Modi and I met recently, reconfirmed our intention to complete those negotiations by the end of this year. I can give you more examples, but there's a lineup behind you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Prochaine question.
Hi, thank you, Prime Minister. It's Aaron Beswick from the Chronicle Herald. Just up the road in Hawkesbury, there's a proposed green hydrogen export facility.
Yes. And
it's waiting on, basically, to get the go-ahead on whether to construct on the H2 global auction, which your government committed $300 million to, as did the German government. What I'm wondering is, as part of the industrial benefits, is green hydrogen, ammonia, purchasing from Canada and, building facilities like that, is that part of what's being negotiated with Germany?
I'm going to give you a slightly coy answer in the following respect. There's a series of industrial benefits that have been discussed. I referenced some broad categories, which included elements of renewable. That is part of the next stage, nailing those down, if I can put it in those terms, is part of the next stage of the negotiations. Let me say independent, so I'm not going to go to a very specific example in any of the categories, if you don't mind. But let me make a general point, which is that we see a role, we, the government, see a role for green hydrogen as part of a broader range of renewable solutions and energy solutions, just as we do, and I'm going to take the liberty with Premier Houston here, we see an enormous opportunity in offshore wind and a broader build-out of the energy infrastructure here in Nova Scotia to the benefit of obviously the province, Atlantic Canada, and all of Canada, and we're actively pursuing it on all those fronts. Thank you.
Thank you. And just one quick one. We've got, we're told it's a big contract and they're expensive, but we're not going to find out how much, when do we find out? Do you have timelines for when we'll have a number?
Yeah, I understand the question. And you understand, I think, the reason why we don't reveal a specific price, because then that prejudices the negotiations. It's the largest procurement that we have made as a country, so that gives some sense of orders of magnitude. The timing for the contract, look, we accelerated the speed with which the overall decision was taken by 5 years, as I've mentioned. These contract negotiations can take somewhere between 6 to 18 months. In the past, they've taken longer. One of the benefits of having a dedicated defense investment agency and a point agency and the expertise that Doug Guzman and his colleagues represent is that we can move with speed and get the best deals. So it'll take as long as it takes, but no longer. And of course, as that proceeds, we will, as soon as the numbers start to get nailed down, we'll reveal those numbers.
Thanks much.
Next question. Prochaine question.
Bonjour Monsieur le Premier ministre, Kira Morellon avec Radio-Canada. Ma question suit un peu celle de mon collègue. Vous parlez de la rapidité avec laquelle vous avez choisi de faire affaire avec cette compagnie.
Oui.
À quelle rapidité est-ce qu'on peut s'attendre à avoir une signature, des détails concrets sur ce dont vous vous engagez?
Ok, c'est une question importante. Et comme je viens de dire, d'expliquer, pour le moment, on ne dit pas, ce n'était pas votre question, mais pour le moment, soyons clairs, on ne dit pas le montant possible de le contrat. En ce qui concerne le temps de négociation, probablement c'est entre 6 mois et 18 mois. Ça, c'est normal. C'est ce sera une contrat, ou plus que ça. En effet, c'est une entente complexe parce qu'il y a des bénéfices industriels. On doit négocier en même temps que il faut préciser. C'est plus que ça. On a l'idée de tous les bénéfices du contrat, mais il faut préciser et négocier les points finaux. Alors, la réponse courte, c'est trop tard, mais la réponse courte, c'est 6 mois à 18 mois.
Question de
Oui.
suivi.
Et ça, vous avez mentionné que vous êtes sur le point de vous envoler pour un sommet de l'OTAN.
Oui.
Est-ce que faire cette annonce aujourd'hui, confirmer que vous voulez faire affaire avec TKMS, est-ce que vous aviez besoin de faire cette annonce aujourd'hui pour peut-être rassurer vos alliés en partant pour cette conférence?
Je ne crois pas. Je ne crois pas. C'est utile, bien sûr, d'être plus concret au sommet de l'OTAN. On va discuter. Ça, dans la grande réunion du mercredi, on va discuter les menaces dans le secteur de l'Arctique et de la mer Baltique et tout cela parce qu'ils sont liés, ce sera sûr. Et c'est une haute contribution du Canada par rapport d'établir la paix ou la sécurité là. Mais c'était le plan depuis quelques mois de prendre cette décision juste avant le jour du Canada. Alors, c'est aujourd'hui parce qu'il y a d'autres annonces, l'annonce de la Colombie-Britannique et de l'Alberta pour cette jour. Alors, c'est utile, oui, mais ce n'était pas nécessaire.
Next question. Prochaine question.
Mr. Prime Minister, Zane Woodford, all Nova Scotia. I'm wondering if you could talk a bit about what kind of investment in Halifax this is going to mean, whether it's in terms of logistics or the maintenance base. What does that look like, and how is that going to roll out?
Well, again, the more details will come as this goes forward. But let me say this, which is that the capacity, the human capacity, the physical capacity, the synergies that are being built in Halifax, broader Halifax, for shipbuilding, maintenance, sustainment of all types, is extraordinary. I had the privilege of spending some time again with Vice Admiral Charlebois as we toured the harbor, and we talked about how things have changed over the course of even the last 5 years, just that you would have seen this directly as with the citizens here. And that's just the beginning. It's really just the beginning. So I think it's reasonable to expect that there will be very substantial activity here in Halifax for decades as a consequence of this, as there will throughout Atlantic Canada, as there will. Secretary of State Fuhrer is, I think, at this moment or shortly thereafter, making an announcement on the West Coast, as there will throughout Canada. I referenced, for example, in Quebec, some of the expertise in Manitoba and throughout that will feed it.
Hanwha had proposed a lot of different industrial projects around Atlantic Canada. How do you ensure that they, continue to invest in this region after presumably losing this contract?
Well, the investments, those types of industrial investments are in many cases directly linked to the project. I mean, they're related. Some are directly linked to capacities that would be required for broader Arctic, broader maritime defense. Let me put it that way. Obviously, the Arctic component to it. Some are industrial benefits that make up for the cost of the investment or added to. And Minister Joly and CEO Doug Guzman, they've been building out those discussions. So one is making a decision against two very, very competitive bids that have different but similar industrial benefits that have certain cost parameters, certain commitments on sustainment, certain commitments on timing and ability to meet time schedules. Both of them meet the overall capability requirements of the Royal Navy. So one expects those associated with TKMS, and look, Hanwha is Hanwha Ocean, but Hanwha Group more broadly is an extraordinary consortium with many strengths, and so and there are many complementarities between Canada and them, but they will be part of different discussions, not linked to this, obviously.
Thank you.
Next question. Prochaine question.
Hi, Prime Minister. It's
Hi.
Selena Alders with CBC News. This ultimately wasn't just a decision about two submarines. It was a decision between two countries. What's your message to the South Koreans, presumably the disappointed party today?
Yeah, well, our message, and I spoke, I had a long conversation, a cordial conversation with President Lee on the weekend, a leader I hold in extremely high regard. And we had a discussion, obviously, about this. I understand the disappointment, particularly given the strength of the bid, and these are tough decisions. We also discussed, as we will discuss, we will both be in Ankara in 24 hours, and we committed to pick up on some other strategic concerns that we share in the technology sector is one example, where we have very complementary skills. There are many other areas where Canada and Korea are cooperating. There are many more where we can deepen that. And it's, as I said a moment ago in my prepared remarks, a critical strategic partner of Canada, and they are. So while this is, I can see this as a disappointment, we're moving forward with the relationship because there's so many things we can do together.
And you also mentioned in your prepared remarks that this program, the budget for this program has been set aside in the framework. Are you committing to 12 submarines, and does Canada need that many?
Well, that will be part of the negotiation. We say up to advisedly. We may want to keep some flexibility. Let me say a couple of things. One is that there's a sequencing of when the submarines come in, obviously, when they can be built and when the payments are structured. It's part of the negotiation. One of the decisions is to maintain how much flexibility we maintain for the various tranches of submarines, given technological change or other factors that we may want to hedge against. So that's part of the consideration, and we'll talk through that. But we're clear that is the base case up to those 12 submarines. Yeah, thank you. En français, en ce qui concerne le montant de sous-marins, ce sera jusqu'aux 12 sous-marins. On a de flexibilité, mais ce sera la manière, le degré de la flexibilité va être déterminé dans les négociations de contrat. Mais on peut voir des situations avec les changements de technologie et tout cela. Ce sera utile d'avoir une marge de manœuvre dans le contrat, oui.
Prochaine question. Next question.
I have a question about the technology and just the timeline there. So with the rise of drones and underwater unmanned vessels, are you concerned that a fleet of submarines that won't start arriving for another 8 years may end up being obsolete relative to the amount of money Canadians will spend to purchase them?
Yeah, this is super, and this is something that we have, and the experts in the Royal Navy and with our allies, and I'll give you an example with our allies, and you're not relying on my expertise, I'm not an expert, but I'll give you an example. So when I was a few months ago in Norway for Operation Cold Response, and with actually Chancellor Merz, Prime Minister Stora, Prime Minister Starmer of the UK was there, a number of other leaders. And one of the discussions we had was about, and this is exactly the discussion I'll have again tomorrow with President Zelensky, I'm sure one aspect of this, is integrated defense systems. So integration between manned, or I'm going to call them traditional, even though they're cutting edge, but traditional manned vehicles, whether it's a manned aircraft, a manned destroyer, or crewed, I should say, crewed destroyer, crewed submarine, and autonomous drones and other vehicles, and space technology. So that you will see, I referenced space, there's a space element to this as well. And there's a need to integrate all of that in order to have true defense. So it's not an either or is the way it's developing, it's both. to your question and to the previous question, there does become a question of relativities, how much resources you put in one and the other, and how much they're integrated, and that's part of the technological development. What's clear is we have one submarine that's operational in Canada. We have 3 coasts. We do not have enough submarine capacity. And I said it in my remarks, I want to salute the women and men of the Royal Canadian Navy for being able to keep the Victoria class operational. But it's time to change. The value of being able to do that change and upgrade is tremendous. And yes, supplementing with autonomous will be necessary. I agree. Thank you.
Last question, dernière question.
Mr. Prime Minister, Jonathan McGinnis, CTV News. How long will Canada negotiate with TKMS before considering or moving on to the Hanwha Ocean bid?
Well, I think, look, I mean, this is, our expectation is we'll come to an agreement with TKMS. It's the responsibility of Defense Investment Agency to lead those negotiations. This has been a textbook process thus far. We had very detailed submissions that there was an opportunity for both parties to respond to questions, further be for greater precision about their submissions, including on a huge range of important issues, medium-term issues, sustainment. You know, how do you keep the submarines operational? How will we build that capacity? How will you help us to build that capacity? Fundamental, I mean, huge job opportunity, but also huge expense, large expense. And so the process and the decision-making around the process went into a lot of these details, which would then be part of a formal contract. So the expectation is that we will come to an agreement, and I don't want to put a specific time on it or any other condition related to that, but the expectation is that will happen. But the fact is, last point, is we have what we call a reserve supplier who's excellent and who meets the Royal Canadian Navy's operational requirements, and who submitted a very competitive bid. So we have options if needed.
Last follow-up.
There will be a large number of submariners needed to crew these boats. Can we train, and how many do we need to train to operate eventually potentially 12 boats?
Well, that's precisely, thank you for that question. I'm just going to take the opportunity, and again, the Vice Admiral and I discussed this, is that the enormous opportunity for recruitment into the Royal Canadian Navy, which now includes an enormous opportunity for submariners. And for the first time in years, and it's many years, the Royal Canadian Navy met their recruitment targets. They have additional needs above and beyond coming forward. We know the River-class destroyers are coming now. We know the submarines are coming. There's a series of other capacities that are coming. It's a very exciting place to be at a crucial time for our country. And there will be considerable opportunities directly in the Royal Canadian Navy. And if you're thinking about becoming an engineer or going in the skilled trades or other technical areas, we're going to be building an associated infrastructure for this for a very long time. And that's just part of a bigger agenda. And again, I'm going to take advantage of the Premier's presence here just to salute that building affordable housing. Right? Building renewable energy, building just a broader transportation infrastructure. It's a great time for our country. And maybe I'll just finish with this, which again, because I feel a debt of gratitude in many respects to the women and men of the Royal Canadian Navy, but also for standing here while I go on. And I would like to shake their hands and thank them for their service. And thank you all for your time. Thank you.
This puts an end to our press conference. C'est ce qui met fin à la conférence de presse. Merci.